This episode of the Downtown Rams podcast is brought to you by our proud sponsors, Thrive Fantasy, Built Bar, and ExpressVPN. Now, using promo code DTSN, our listeners can get $20 bonus cash on a deposit of at least $20 on Thrive Fantasy, 10% off their Built Bar protein bar order, and 35% off their ExpressVPN annual subscription. Once again, all you have to do is use the promo code DTSN and tell them the Downtown Rams podcast sent you. Now enjoy the show.
Aaron Donald creates the fumble. Goff goes crashing into the end zone.
It is intercepted by Jalen Ramsey.
Robert Wood, touchdown. Picked off by John Johnson. Touchdown, Tyler Higbee. Cooper Kupp plucks it out of the air.
Henderson with a good run and a first down. Still on his feet. Touchdown, Van Jefferson. Everett in stride. Wow!
LA will play for the Lombardi.
Hi guys, welcome back to Downtown Rams. As always, I'm your co-host Alexis Kraft, joined here with my co-host Jake Ellenbogen, and we are coming to you live after a Rams win. The Rams beat the Arizona Cardinals 18-7, putting themselves in the playoffs, which we are obviously very excited about. This was a must-win game, you could say, for the Rams, although we also needed the Bears to lose. But ironically enough, a Rams win actually put both us and the Bears into the playoffs because Arizona lost. So regardless, we are in the playoffs. We are very happy about that. We played against the Cardinals with our backup quarterback. It was a battle of the backup quarterbacks, Jake. John Wolford and a guy whose name is not coming to my mind right now, but
Chris Streveler.
that guy. And yeah, it was a solid Rams win, as I said in the last episode. And I've been saying, I just feel like you can never rely on other teams to put yourself where you want to be. So the Rams needed to go out to win. They needed to control their destiny, and that's exactly what they did, putting themselves into the playoffs where we will be playing the Seattle Seahawks on a day that is not yet determined. So, Jake, what was your overall thought on this Rams-Cardinals matchup?
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, how about John Wolford? The guy that a lot of people were worried about. Can he do it? We have no chance. The season's over. Jared Goff, blah, blah, blah. John Wolford comes in. He's 22 at 38, 231 yards passing. He had an interception, which was the first, throw of the game. The same guy had that same interception, first throw of his game, of his career, was actually Brett Favre. So just fun tidbit out there. John Wolford also had 6 carries for 56 yards. He's the first quarterback in the Super Bowl era to make his debut and throw for over 200 yards and 50 yards rushing. If you remember, my prediction was 315 yards. So I had 250 passing and 65 rushing. I was only 9 off on the rushing. And then, I had 250 passing and he got 231. So I had the right idea. But yeah, John Wolford did everything you could ask for. And look, the box score is going to show that this team didn't score, a touchdown on offense. The box score is going to show that John Wolford had a 64.7 passer rating. But at the end of the day, I think he gave you everything you wanted. And on top of that, I thought he offered something in this Rams offense that we really haven't seen all year.
I agree. And, it was certainly weird. It's like watching a different prototype at quarterback, for Rams fans, because we're so used to watching Jared Goff play. And Wolford, by comparison, is definitely more like a Kyler Murray, which is something that Rams fans aren't used to seeing. We're not used to seeing a mobile quarterback. So it was refreshing to see that from John Wolford. And I could tell that Sean McVay was a lot more comfortable calling certain plays with Wolford than he would be with Goff, and certainly different types of plays. I tweeted when the game started, I was like, just let Wolford run the ball every single play. I would have faith that we would win just having him run every play, which he obviously didn't do. He did run a lot, but he also got more comfortable throwing the ball as the game went on. So, I know that everyone's kind of all over the map with Wolford. I know, Jake, you really love him. I think that he's certainly a good quarterback. I don't think that he's like a franchise guy like a Kyler Murray. I think he's kind of the poor man's Kyler Murray. I personally, he's not who I would want the franchise quarterback to be. There's a lot of guys in the draft that I would prefer, but at the same time, when you're looking at who we have right now, you have John Wolford and Jared Goff. And if it's me going into next week, I'm playing John Wolford. I think that we only saw this was the first game where the Rams had that type of quarterback to use. It was one game. I know that obviously Wolford plays in practice and things like that, but going into an actual NFL game, especially a regular season game where a lot is on the line, we played really well with him. And I think that if I'm the Rams, I want to see what happens against Seattle, because I know that the Rams, in my opinion, have gotten the best of Seattle in recent games. Either we've won or lost. Even when we've lost, I feel like we've dominated against them, but they're still a good team. So I'm still going into this game wanting to do everything possible to win. I mean, you have to. It's a playoff game. So I would definitely play Wolford. Now, do I think the Rams will? Absolutely not. I do not believe that Sean McVay will play Wolford next week as a starter. I hope I'm wrong on that. I could definitely be wrong, but I just don't think that he'll do it. I think Goff, in fans' eyes, is done for, but I don't necessarily think he is with the Rams coaching staff, but I could be wrong. I just don't see a situation right now where if Goff is healthy to play, that they play Wolford over him.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, money definitely talks. And I think it puts him in a, weird position to not play John Wolford, even though I think he did earn a starting gig next week. Look, Jared Goff has the same injury that Drew Brees suffered in a game that you and I saw. Did you think Drew Brees could go out there and win that game at any point when you saw him holding his hand the way he was? No. Teddy Bridgewater came in, and he didn't do all that well in the Rams game, but he ended up winning 5 straight. Now, here's how I look at this. Regardless if Goff is healthy or not, today taught me a lot. Look, the Cardinals' defense is not great. I'm not going to say they're great, but at the end of the day, I saw John Wolford looking off veterans like Patrick Peterson, who people want to put in the Hall of Fame. He was looking off veterans like him. He was making guys look kind of silly out there, honestly, manipulating the pocket, using his legs, buying time. He put some huge passes right on the money. The ball placement was great. Now, when you look at the beginning of this game, it's very easy to see the storyline. You have this guy come in, the first play of the game, he throws an interception. So, Alexis, as you know, because you don't really look at things like that, you look at more from the whole perspective, because we've been talking about the Rams. We're now on podcast 341, so you've been talking about the Rams from a broader perspective, but a fan perspective, not all fans look at it that way. So when Wolford threw that interception, some were already convinced that, he's bad. And so they didn't really give him a chance to really earn their trust. Then the second, possession, it's a 3-and-out. It's not a great possession, what have you. After that, he settles down and he's making the throws that Goff simply, and I've heard it. Yeah, Goff's made that. I'm not saying he hasn't made the throws that Wolford made, including that back shoulder incredible throw to Robert Woods. I'm not saying he's never made that throw. I'm saying he doesn't make that today. He doesn't make that in this game. And I'll be honest with you, Alexis, Jared Goff wins this football game. I'm not saying he doesn't. I don't know if he wins it, in the shape he's in, but a healthy Jared Goff wins this football game. Because, as you said, Kyler Murray being out kind of made it really easy for them to win. But he did come back. Let's also highlight that. And he made some good throws. But, it's not the point of Jared Goff winning or not. Because what that does, by me saying that and by me realizing and believing it, it proves to me what I thought. Jared Goff is not adding anything to the offense. He is simply a driver in a Mercedes-Benz, or hell, we could go to, a Mercedes McLaren, or hell, we could even just go straight to, a Ferrari. He doesn't make the Ferrari any faster. He doesn't make it any cooler. He doesn't make the Ferrari. He's just a driver. So that is what this offense is. And when you added Wolford, Wolford took this Ferrari and he actually drove it how, you're supposed to drive Ferraris. He wasn't driving with the speed limit. He was driving over the speed limit. He was making plays with his legs, and that's the thing, is that you look at this Sean McVay offense, and there were times in this game where I felt like Sean McVay could have, maybe not gone as conservative, but he did let Wolford go back out there after throwing the interception and try to, make up for it. And I did appreciate that. So the biggest thing for me is it's not Jared Goff hate. It's the fact they may have had the same result, but by John Wolford having the same result as Jared Goff and the way he got that same result, and of course we will never see Goff play this game, but my point is the way he got that result shows me that Jared Goff isn't making this offense. This offense can still run. Would they have won with Blake Bortles? I can't tell you that for sure. Would they have won with Bryce Perkins? I can't tell you that for sure. But I can tell you that they would have won with their backup quarterback, and the guy is mobile. He offers a dimension, and we've said this, he offers a dimension that Goff simply just doesn't. He had a few plays where he got out of harm's way entirely because of the way he can run. And, when you're able to run that like that, that's huge. We haven't seen a Rams quarterback run like that since Trent Green, and Trent Green is not the same as John Wolford. So I think you have to look at that. And, as far as the way this game was played, we have to kind of switch gears a little bit and discuss this defense, because I don't care who the quarterback is. I don't care if Streveler was in. I don't care if Murray was in and not fully healthy. This defense stepped up when a huge member of their defense went down due to COVID. That was Michael Brockers, and this defense stepped up, including Morgan Fox getting that sack.
Yeah, the defense played really well, per usual. I mean, I think it's safe to say that our defense has been the backbone of our football team. And you know that how the saying goes, defense wins championships, which can be true. And I think the thing with the defense is they played really well. There was obviously a few plays in the secondary that I wasn't like a big fan of. I felt like there was a couple times where we left guys wide open again, and that could have just been a bad play call. Probably was a bad play call. But you're right. When we go into the game against the Seahawks, God willing, we are going to have Michael Brockers back. And I think he really does make a big difference. I know that we did well without him, but I'm looking forward to having him back. And again, if we talk about guys that we're getting back, Cooper Kupp, hopefully. So, I was really impressed today. I think Rams fans kind of get this like PTSD going into games like this, where we're like, I really hope the Rams just don't beat themselves. And that's something that I said today too, is, for a while there, we were getting the penalties and things like that. And I think as long as we didn't beat ourselves, I had no doubt that we were going to win this football game. And we also have to point out, which might be pointing out the obvious, but Jalen Ramsey on DeAndre Hopkins. That, to me, DeAndre Hopkins is a top 3 receiver in the NFL. I guess depending on who you ask, could arguably be top 1. But the fact that he didn't get targeted very much and didn't do much is just a testament to Jalen Ramsey. So I think a lot of fans might overlook, it sounds crazy to say overlook Jalen Ramsey, but it's almost like, in a way, the less that Jalen Ramsey does is kind of like speaks volumes, if that makes sense. Like, if he's not getting thrown to, that means that he's doing his job. And that happened. There's, of course, a couple plays where they did throw to Jalen Ramsey's way, and he made a couple great stops as well. So that really stood out to me from this game. But yeah, I mean, I think that we did exactly what we needed to do, because when you're going into a playoff run, it's always better to go in with a win beforehand. It's always good to have good momentum, to be hyped up, to be excited. And that's what the Rams have. So hopefully they carry that energy into the Seahawks game. And of course, what we're all waiting for now is that quarterback decision.
And it's a decision, you can say what you will. Oh, you can't do this to Jared Goff. He's led us through so much. I don't care. I want to win football games. And I want the quarterback out there that Sean McVay thinks can win us football games more than the next. And right now, the way he called plays today, that's John Wolford. I mean, it's going to show up on tape when I go back to the All-22. It is very clear. John Wolford threw an interception at the beginning of the game, his first pass, and after that, he was flawless. He really was. He didn't turn the ball over. No, Cam Akers fumbled, not him. I saw people trying to say that he fumbled. That never happened. And I mean, I hate to break it to you, but this is what happens when you have an elite defense, is that now you can be critical of the quarterback. And the way this defense has been bailing this team out all year long, it's time for people to realize, it's time for people to hear it. Jared Goff adds nothing to this offense. His deep ball is gone. He may have the arm strength, but he doesn't have the accuracy, and he doesn't throw it with confidence. He just throws it up there. I'm not saying Wolford hit every single deep ball, but Alexis, how many of those did you count that, they actually let Wolford throw down the field 20 plus yards or more?
Well, right. And I think what you're saying, in a sense, is kind of what we've been saying, is that, and honestly, to me, again, I know people feel differently about Wolford, but the reality of it is, even if Wolford isn't the guy, what happened today is we proved that Jared Goff isn't. So I think that today, really, all Wolford had to do was just kind of get the job done. And I think it might have showed Rams fans that, like, we don't need Jared Goff to win. like there's no point. Like, we can find someone else to do it. And I think, if anything, today it was a reflection more on Goff than anybody else. And I think that it might have been the nail in the coffin for fans. Now, is it for Sean McVay? I don't know. You could argue, because of the way that he started to call plays and the style that he started leaning towards with Wolford, you could say, yeah, or he at least kind of got that taste of what it's like to have a mobile quarterback. I don't buy that he's going to start Wolford next game. I hope he does. It would surprise me. But even if it's not the nail in the coffin yet for Jared Goff in the offseason, who knows? Like you and I have talked about, there's a lot of guys in the draft that we think would fit into the Rams offense, particularly Desmond Ridder, who a lot of Rams fans like. But, we'll see how it goes. But I think, if anything, today, like you mentioned earlier in the podcast, we saw that the offensive players are literally the same without Goff out there. When you have great quarterbacks, like an Aaron Rodgers or a Pat Mahomes or anyone like that, leave a game, what you usually see happen is you see, like, everyone on the offense kind of, like, decreases their talent. Like, whether it's right or wrong, and it might be psychological, it might not be, but whenever you see quarterbacks who are true leaders of the team and who truly make change to their offense exit a game or not play in a game, you usually see the effects of that kind of trickle down to the offense. Like, we saw none of that today. Like you said, it literally, Jared Goff is not adding anything of value to this offense. And I think that finally, the fans are getting that. And I think the Rams organization is to follow.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And when I, look at, the way today was called, I mean, I texted you during the game, like, this isn't even the same offense. Like, this was a completely different offense. This wasn't like, we made a different choice of game plan. This was like Sean McVay had this offense ready to go. Like, he had been planning this for months, and he'd been waiting for a quarterback that'd be able to run it. Look at how many times they throw deep down the field. Look at those designed quarterback runs. Look at the read option. I mean, he gave John Wolford so much to work with. And Wolford was, he obliged. I mean, he wanted to go downfield. He wanted to test this defense. He was fearless. And, we got to obviously bring up the fact, you brought it up on the podcast after the Rams lost to the Seattle Seahawks. Jared Goff, he slides, right before the first down marker. They don't get the first down. John Wolford on third down, he makes sure to punch it right in their mouth. He runs right through the defensive back trying to tackle him and finds his way to get the first down. That's kind of where we're at right now. You have a guy that's fearless. You have a guy that literally feels like he has nothing to lose and everything to gain. And played with a chip on his shoulder and had all week long. We saw the clippings, the press clippings. We saw all these interviews, all these guys. Aaron Donald talking about how this guy works as hard or harder than him. Van Jefferson, Robert Woods saying that, they stay after practice with him. Things along those, that nature. And on the other side, we see with Goff, he looks terrified. I mean, I don't look at like when he was playing for against Seattle, against the Jets, he just looks like he's a deer in the headlights at times, but then he just looks like he is absolutely terrified to be in the position he's in. And it honestly looked like against Seattle, he felt he had to do something because he had a whisper in his ear saying Wolford's going to start if you don't step up. And like that's how it felt.
Well, and that brings up what I was going to say next is if they start Goff against Seattle, there is a chance that he plays absolutely out of his mind. I mean, let's be real. Do I think it'll happen? No, but maybe there's a fire now lit inside of Goff because he saw what Wolford did out there and he saw how everyone played. So if I'm Jared Goff, if it's me and I'm about to go start against Seattle, I'm thinking that exact thought. I'm thinking my job is on the line. I better do everything in my power to absolutely light it up today. Now, if he does that, am I still sold that Goff is the guy? Not really, because I think it speaks volumes. I think that your ideal quarterback plays like that every single game. Like you shouldn't need to have this like outside motivation to give it your all and to, play the best that you can play. And I'm not trying to knock Goff because the reality of it is he might be playing the best that he can play. Which if that's the case, that's the case. And he peaked and, we need to move on. And it's unfortunate that we spent a lot of money on a guy that's never going to get back to the level that he was the year they went to the Super Bowl. So who knows? But I think right now, all we can do is because it's still our season, right? All of these are things that we can talk about for hours in the off season. But I think right now we're still in season. We have a playoff game coming up against a division rival who is a good football team. So now all the weight in the world is on McVay's shoulders, basically, with the choice that he has to make. Is he going to go with Jared Goff, who is, as of right now, the franchise quarterback, the guy that you gave all the money in the world to, the guy who you've been coaching for the past however many seasons, or are you going to go with the guy that played pretty well against the Cardinals and who represents or offers a new style of offense? I mean, if it's me, as much as I hate it, I'm probably going with Goff. If I'm McVay, I'm not saying that's what I would do, but I'm saying when you look logically at this situation, you're probably going with Jared Goff. And we'll know in a few days, and then we'll be able to talk about it in the episode, or our preview episode. But I mean, I don't know if you agree with that, but if you're looking from a statistical, logical standpoint, I don't know, weirdly, the safest option might be Jared Goff.
So I can understand with what you're saying. He's been there before. But I saw Jared Goff decline big time over the last 2 weeks. And I almost think it would be too breakneck to kind of go from this John Wolford, this new revived offense. Now, granted, I know they didn't score a touchdown. I get that. But they, orchestrated drives where, he put them in a position. He threw a touchdown to Gerald Everett that was dropped. He put them in a position. You had the false start penalties. You had the fumble at the 1 yard line. Like there should have been 3 touchdowns in John Wolford orchestrated drives. So I guess my point is that this is a completely different offense than what Goff runs. I would make the argument it would throw this offense back if they went back to that very conservative, keep everything in front of you, dink and dunk offense. Did anyone wonder why Jared Goff this year doesn't even have 4,000 yards? He didn't even finish with 4,000 yards. He played 15 games, didn't even get to 4,000 yards. He's gotten it every year, but he didn't get it this year. And the reason is because this year, unlike any other year, Sean McVay realized it clicked in 2019 that Jared Goff doesn't have the confidence or the deep ball accuracy to go deep down the field. So it was a lot of dinking and dunking and playing to the strengths, or rather playing away from the weaknesses. When you have Wolford, what are the weaknesses besides the fact he just played his first NFL game? And if you had him play the whole week, you had him, prepare to be the number one guy, and, he goes through game plans. Now you have this guy ready in his second game. He already knows what it's like to have a taste of the NFL. The playoff thing probably doesn't bother him because he just played a playoff game today. Essentially, what Wolford just did was play in a playoff game because the Rams had to win in order to make the playoffs. We can talk about the Bears all we want, but that was never, a guarantee. The Bears easily could have won that game and it would have been completely different. I'm not saying they, in that game they would have easily won, but I'm saying the outcome could have been different. and the Rams would have had to beat the Cardinals to, make sure that wasn't the case. So Wolford's already played with his back against the wall. He doesn't care. His head to the fire. It doesn't matter. He also didn't have Cooper Kupp in this game. He'd have him back next week, likely. He'd have Whitworth back. His team's starting to get healthy. I just feel like Wolford gives you the best chance to win. And Jared Goff didn't impress me before he got hurt. And now I'm worried about him, just in general, coming back from that injury. But furthermore, forget about that. We talked about the fact that Wolford adds more to the offense, or, adds that dimension to the offense, and Jared Goff doesn't really add anything to the offense. But one thing that's very important is that Jared Goff is not mobile. And what is really important that I've been trying to drive into people's minds that aren't understanding is that Seattle is not that good of a football team because their offense and defense have switched. The offense was playing on another level to start the season, and now their offense is quite pedestrian. They almost lost to the San Francisco 49ers today. CJ Beathard led San Francisco 49ers. The Jeffrey Wilson Jr. led San Francisco 49ers. Kendrick Bourne was their leading receiver, San Francisco 49ers. The defense of Seattle is what is making Seattle so scary because they're not a scary football team. Now, they have the potential to tear it up in the playoffs, but their defense is ultimately what won them the game. With that pressure on Jared Goff, that's what won them the game. So now you have John Wolford, a guy that can work off script and can get away from that pressure, as we saw today with that, that awesome run that he had, a few of them. That is what is going to help you win. And Wolford already showed you, yes, he'll make a mistake. It's his first pass of the game, pass of his career, makes a mistake, but he came right back and, made up for it. So I don't think this is somebody that will fold under the pressure. And I trust his confidence and where his mind is at and his play is at and his mobility more than I trust Goff. And I think that's something McVay is seriously considering, because I'll tell you this right now, Alexis, and I'm not like trying to defend against you because I know you agree with me. You're playing devil's advocate, for Sean McVay. But my thing is, and Jordan, friend of the podcast, Jordan Rodriguez, tweeted it. It's very simple. There was an assurance that Jared Goff would return with from thumb surgery next week. But after tonight's win, McVay was asked basically about Jared Goff's availability, and he said, quote, "Well, we will talk about that." Also, quote, "Not sure," end quote. So when a reporter asked him if Wolford was going to start, he basically, obviously there's some gamesmanship there because you don't want to just trash the idea of Wolford starting after he played well and set this team in the playoffs. You're not going to say absolutely not, Goff's our quarterback. But it's very interesting how, this week, earlier in the week, it was Jared Goff is going to be ready for us if we make the playoffs, to now it's, I'm not really sure. We'll talk about that. Well, to me, there's some gamesmanship there for sure, but there's also something that isn't being stressed enough, and it's that the Eagles, who right now, while we record this, who inactivated Wentz, that he is inactive tonight. He's done. He will never play another down for the Eagles. They totally soured that relationship. But regardless, they moved on from Wentz. The Rams could be moving on from Goff, and it's hiding in plain sight right now. And people just don't want to take the bait. They don't want to believe because it's all, it's all personal. I get the Rams were bad for a long time. Goff comes in, all of a sudden he's the guy that leads to the Super Bowl. And you associate the Super Bowl appearance with Jared Goff. And I almost feel like Sean McVay doesn't get enough credit. And I think today really showed you that we need to associate the success that is happening with McVay, the coaching staff, and the defense right now. And we need to realize that Wolford is probably our best bet if the Rams truly want to win a Super Bowl this year because of what he can do off schedule and the fact that he showed you today the offense wasn't any different. It was just more creative.
Yeah. I mean, like we've said, McVay's got a really big decision to make, and I don't believe that he knows the answer yet. I think that he is going to think about it. I think he's probably going to talk to other people as he should, and he's going to make that decision. But you talk about Carson Wentz. I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of quarterback shuffling this offseason. And the question is, are the Rams a part of that or are they not? I mean, and just because theoretically, if we take Goff away from that starting quarterback position, whether it be for Wolford or be for a different quarterback that we bring in, it's not entirely out of the realm of possibility that Goff stays as a backup for the Rams. I don't think so. I mean, the contract issue is obviously at hand, but there's a lot to consider. And I know that we'll spend a lot of time talking about it in other episodes, but we will be back later this week to preview the Rams matchup against the Seahawks. At the time that we are recording this, we do not have any knowledge of what day or time that will be at, but it will be obviously either Saturday or Sunday. So as always, if you like what you hear, please like and subscribe. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Downtown Rams. You can follow me at the Alexis Craft, and you can follow Jake at JK Bogan DTSN. So everyone, enjoy the rest of your week. The Rams are going to the playoffs. We will be back, but until then, stay safe and go Rams.